You know, as a coach, you don't get here because you can kick or catch or tackle or run or throw. You get here because you had the help of a lot of people, and you reflect in what a lot of people have done. I'd first like to say that Max Winter, who was the president of the Vikings when I arrived, and also had worked with the Lakers when I played professional basketball, was very instrumental in my coming to the Vikings. Between he and Jim Finks convinced me to come from Canada, join the Minnesota Vikings. They did me a great service, and I'm forever indebted to them. Sid mentioned Jim, one of the great general managers, and a model for all general managers in the National Football League. After that, it was Mike Lynn, who in his era, in my time, I felt was the finest general manager in the National Football League. He helped us tremendously with everything that he did, ran a happy ship, made it possible for us to do things and to go on and win some football games. You know, as a coach, you reflect, as I mentioned, in the players and what they do. The players you see sitting behind me, these great players you see sitting over here, we as coaches reflect, as Tom does, with everything that they do. Sometimes maybe we shouldn't, but we do. I'm sorry to say that there aren't a lot of Vikings in the Hall of Fame yet, but I hope that this is something that will be corrected in the near future, for the Vikings have some record setters that are out there. I'm thinking of Paul Krause, who holds the record for 81 interceptions. Should be in here very soon. Jim Marshall, 19 years as a starter, 270 starts. He'll be here too, Ohio boy. Mick Tingelhoff, a center, 240 starts. Played many years. Carl Eller has been nominated. I'm sure you'll see Carl in here. Ron Yeri, played many years. Matt Blair. There are many others that I think are deserving and eventually will be here enjoying this tremendous feeling. I only mentioned a few, but there are many others. Many that will never be included or considered for an honor like this. Players that have worked diligently, and I'm here today on almost behalf of them. And there's so many, I couldn't mention them all. I'll say that we have Roy Winston, a 15-year player for us, probably never be considered, was very instrumental along with many other players. The Hilgenbergs, the Warwicks, the Shockmans, the Bryants, Siemens, Hannons, Ohio boy, Maslin, the Sundys, the Kramers, Formans, Osborns, Rashads, Whites, Alderman, Brown, all familiar names that I hope will be remembered. Now, probably no coach is ever successful without a great staff. I was very fortunate. I didn't have a lot of assistant coaches, and the reason was they stayed with us for a long time. Jerry Burns, 17 years, a wonderful friend and coach, and certainly gets credit for many of the things we ever did offensively. A trainer by the name of Fred Zamberletti came to the Vikings in 1961. Still there. No coach can exist without a close association with a trainer. John Michaels, 27 years. Started in Winnipeg. John should be standing here today with me for all that he's done, and I thank him. My father was very important in my life. He was interested in sports and got me interested in sports. I remember my first hero was Joe Louis. I remember the night he knocked out Max Schmeling. My dad and I jumped up and down as that we listened to a radio. It was great. But he had baseball fans, stars and heroes, football and boxing. But really, something changed in Superior in 1939. The New York Giants came to Superior to train. They trained in 1939, 1940, and 1941. As a kid, I hung around the Giants. My dad had a concession stand at the ballpark. Got to know Steve Owen. My dad kept saying, hey, the kid's going to play for you someday. Every year, Steve Owen would come back. He'd measure me a little bit bigger. My dad would say, the kid's going to make it. He's going to play for the Giants. Steve said, well, keep working on him. Keep feeding him. I'm sure he will. And if my mother was here today, she's 93 years old. She couldn't make it. I'd look at her face and see the pride she would have, that only a mother can have. And if my father was here, he was different than I was. He was a very gregarious guy. He'd stand up and he'd say, the kid made it. He finally made it. Well, I'm here, and they can't take it away. And one other thing my father told me a long time ago, he said, if you're ever asked to speak at such an auspicious occasion with so many great speakers, he said, make sure you stand up good and tall so they all can see you. He said, talk good and loud so they all can hear you. Make a short speech so they all will listen to you. Then sit down so they all will like you. Thank you.